Hello and welcome. Very good evening to all of you. Thanks for joining us here on this Sunday edition of the Urban Debate. I am Afrida Rahman Ali. We are looking at an ordinance that has been brought in by the LDF government in Kerala that says that any matter which is published or which is disseminated that could potentially be abusive, humiliating or defamatory will now be punishable by law. The punishment under conviction would entail up to 3 years of jail term or up to 10,000 rupees in fine. So a hefty penalty announced there for anyone who violates this particular provision. This has been added as a new section to the Kerala Police Act. Now, this particular decision, of course, has once again opened out a Pandora's box on whether this is yet another attempt to muzzle free press, to crush dissent, to actually throttle free speech, and whether this is an infringement on the right to freedom of expression. So we will address those questions, because remember, the Chief Minister was quick to assuage all doubts and fears by saying that this is only meant to address, or rather to kind of punish the abusers and the online abusers, and also to restrict fake news. But let's also bring to our viewers notice that this entire issue has come into prominence because the Pinarayi Vijayan cabinet way back in October decided to amend the act after a group of women activists attacked their online abusers, saying that there were derogatory posts made of them and there was nothing that the law could do. So these women took matters in their own hands. They tracked down the blogger and they actually thrashed him. After that incident, the Kerala government decided that there must be a new law brought in. So that's the backstory. But of course, this has again led to strong apprehensions on whether this amendment will throttle free speech. The Chief Minister has come up with a statement saying today this is only meant and this decision was guided by the growing abuse on social media targeting individuals. So I'm going to now introduce my guests this evening. Joining me is Anurag Naidu, social activist from Bengaluru, Smita Menon, leader of the BJP and General Secretary of the Mahila Morcha, joining us from Kerala, and also Sunit Chopra will join us shortly. He is a well-known communist and a political analyst. I'm going to address the important questions here with my guest this afternoon, because it is, of course, important to understand this particular announcement in the right context. Is this a new gag order in the name of protection against online abusers? And, you know, can a law of this nature actually curb fake news? Because that is another justification given, that this will help restrict misinformation and false and fake news. And why was an ordinance route taken? All of these issues must be understood, because we have already a defamation law. We already have relevant sections that address the issue of, say, abuse or humiliation or defamation. So did we really need another provision added to this with a punishment that I just mentioned? Can I ask you, Anurag Naidu, first on this particular issue, since you've been looking at many such similar issues of how muzzling press freedom, or even, for instance, impinging upon a basic right to freedom of expression. Do you think that is under threat with something of this nature?
I think absolutely yes, because going by the face of this promulgation that we are seeing, I think Kerala state government has got all the basics wrong. Though law and order, hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So going by
Mr. Naidu, we can hear you. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
So going by the interpretation of this 118A amendment in the Kerala Police Act, it on the face of it looks to be an attempt to gag the mass media as a whole and not the cyber media, because if it has got anything to do with the online cyber crimes that the state government is talking about, so I think the right way would have been to discuss with all the social media platforms, because this, though law and order is a very state subject, we cannot have this kind of amendments in every other state. And obviously, this can be derived by the political motives. We know Kerala is a very politically charged state. We have.
Yes. Okay, I think we have a problem with the connection there. Smita Menon, your take on this entire matter, because what we are looking at right now is yet another attempt to curb freedom of expression. I mean, who is to define what is insult to injury, what is defamation, what is humiliation? Because these, again, in previous observations by the top court as well, these were spoken of as unambiguous terms. And now we see that in some ways, this whole difference between the left and the right has blurred in a way. When it comes to curbing the freedom of expression, we see that multiple governments are coming up with these kind of draconian laws.
Exactly. There was another newly introduced law. It's a gag law. Actually, it is to suppress the freedom of speech by making defamation an immediately cognizable offense. So it's an law is arbitrary. The law
Yes.
is like a draconian law. It's brought out enacted without any discussions or debates on the assembly. It's totally against the free that means the principles of free speech. It is against the principles of defamation. Why I say so is means the principles of the free speech is it is protected under the section 499 IPC that defines defamation. So defamation is drafted without affecting the principles of free speech. And again, therefore, there are 10 exceptions that are given as a defense against defamation that is based mainly on truth and the good faith. But here there are no defenses available, and the government can act or against anyone whom they dislike. The police can misuse it to any extent. Even according to me, this government very well
Yes.
knows that this won't stand any legal scrutiny. But still, it's a matter of time. Even for a short period, they are trying to impose it. They want to silence the media. They want to silence the people who stood against them, who speak against them, who bring out about the atrocities they do in the present. You know very well what is going on in Kerala. The present current situation is very bad, and they want to silence it. They want to silence the people. The public opinion has risen against them, so they want to silence it. So this is what is happening. There are no
Okay, let me get a response to
there are no
that
defenses.
from Mr. Sunit Chopra. Yes, okay, I got your point. You're saying that this is an unfair attempt to silence the media and free press, something that we've been also raising in terms of whether this will curb the freedom of the media. That is one. Mr. Sunit Chopra also, what is being said is this is supposed to give more power to the police. Now, what is the guarantee that this will not be misused? Clearly, we have seen several attempts already where there are police excesses, and with this kind of power given to the police to arrest somebody for making any kind of expression that they think is defamatory or humiliating or abusive would give them a lot of undue powers.
No, what we have to understand is that things have gone beyond control. So many girls have been put into a position which was utterly indefensible because they had been drugged and stuff. And then things are put on various media and they commit suicide. It's not one case. There are many such cases. Then there is fake news. Then there is this famous case of these young women in Kerala. And also, there are cases of trolling. There are cases of those Delhi school children, one of whom committed suicide after such a thing was put on social media. So some form of control is necessary because people are killing themselves over it. I get a lot of trolling. I just, throw it out. I don't give a damn because I know it's not true. So I don't give a damn. But think of other people who are not as self-confident as I am, probably. And, they do. They get upset. They kill themselves. And I think it's terrible in a country that somebody can misuse something that is for general knowledge. And it's not only that, it's children.
So my question, Mr. Chopra, was to the extent of how will you prevent the misuse? That was my primary question to you. When you give this
I
kind of
think,
power, what
the
prevents
only way
police
to prevent
or the
misuse,
government for that
yes,
matter
I'll tell you that.
crushing dissent, using it to crush dissent?
No. If a government uses it to crush dissent, it's the duty of the opposition to come up. If it's a question of misuse, then it is up to the person concerned to answer. So there is no great problem. I mean, a normal person like me, I just delete this nonsense. I get a whole lot of it. I delete it. But there are people who are afraid. I don't know why they're afraid. They may have done something. But my point is, there are people who are afraid. There are people who are afraid of social attacks on them, especially young girls, who are very innocent. And if somebody is drugged to do something, and then you see a video, what do you do? I mean, I can understand. A person kills themselves because they're afraid. I am not afraid, but I still believe.
Well, we do appreciate that, of course, there are certain concerns, but when you bring in a law of this nature, Mr. Chopra, you'd recall that in 2015, the Supreme Court, in a landmark judgment on Section 66A of the IT Act, had struck down a similar provision of the Kerala Police Act for being violative of the right to freedom of speech and expression and for its vagueness. Now, yet again, you bring a law of with the similar provision, and that too with the ordinance route. That is the question, that why this kind of, a single-minded determination to get something despite the previous observations of top court.
The Chief Minister has pointed out in no uncertain terms that this can be discussed and even changed. He has pointed out.
Okay. Well, let me get the others to respond to that. Yes, Mr. Naidu, you wanted to come in on this.
We have every right to protest. There's no harm. After all, it's a democratic country.
No, I would just like to give a quick rebuttal to Mr. Chopra, just 30 seconds, because he's been of Kerala government stand every time because of his affiliations. But sir, when he gave a very good example about the increasing number of crimes against women and children, but he has not presented any data. If there was a data presented available there, the government would have put the data. I would just prove to you why it is a gag order, because the way it has been brought in is not a very clinical way, or it's not a very creative way to bring in. How many meetings, if Mr. Chopra can go back to the Chief Minister and get the data, how many meetings did the state dispensation, the current dispensation of the left government had with the social media platforms or any kind of, maybe Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, anything to create some kind of a mechanism to curb all these things? Kerala government, I'm afraid, had the legacy of being very violent and being, misusing the state machinery to attack activists. And they've done so in the past. My larger concern is the thing that we are missing here is the elections round the corner. We have elections next year. Is it really some kind of a build-up that the state government is doing in order to be prepared for the elections?
Yes, that's precisely the question, Mr. Chopra, because this is a poll-bound state. And if I may just add, that this smacks of trying to control the media or trying to control the narrative, Mr. Chopra.
No, I'm sorry. I have to give him an answer. There is nothing more horrible than the Hadia case and the way it was taken up and the way this whole love jihad nonsense was brought up with it. And that poor woman suffered and was tortured, and I think no country should have two cases like that, whatever the law.
So just a quick rebuttal.
Also, please answer the question that Mr. Naidu raised about whether ahead of elections you're trying to have some sort of a control on the media.
I'm very concerned about this.
Yes.
I mean, I'm one who's not afraid.
Go ahead,
there are others who may be. My point is very clear. My point is extremely clear. If such things come up, it's our duty as ordinary citizens of a republic to fight against it. And we should come up. I remember there was a famous case of Kerala police with a friend of mine, Appukutan, brought it up, where a person was actually killed. And that whole thing was reopened again, and it was done. So, I mean, these things happen. You have to fight. You may suffer for it for a while. You have to pay the price. But then you continue to fight.
You've made that point, Mr. Chopra. What we are questioning are two things. Firstly, the timing, and secondly, the process and the procedure. An ordinance route has been taken. And thirdly, also a similar provision earlier was struck down by the Supreme Court. So yet again, you bring something of the exact same nature as 66A, which was earlier struck down. Let me allow Smita Menon to give a response to that.
Kerala has a law.
Sure. I can relate to the present. Left government in Kerala. I can relate to the George Orwell statement that the fascists of the future will call themselves anti-fascists. That is the present. He might be referring to the present situation in Kerala. So, he was just justifying about everything that what in the left will be taken care of regarding this law. But I'm pretty sure, what the next the shape of things to come, that you can just rewind the atrocities that has done by this government towards this Sabrimala devotees. So the same thing that can be implemented by they will bring the police Raj back to the state, and those they will ill-treat each and everyone who brings out or expose the misdeeds of the people in power. And I'm pretty sure what they have, everybody has seen that.
But it's interesting you should say that. The BJP rule states are no better in that, in terms of using the police to settle scores with political rivals. It's not the left party alone, or the CPIM for that matter. We've seen instances of that nature in the BJP rule states as well.
I'm talking of abuse.
Right, but who is to define an offensive post? The problem is, in this particular case, just like it was in the earlier instance where the Supreme Court struck it down, the definition of what would qualify as an offensive post is not clear. So there is ambiguity here again, which is why we are questioning that this would give undue powers to the police. Whenever there is a lack of clarity, whenever there is ambiguity, misuse is rampant.
To take this up, and I'm sure they will. And nobody will oppose them, I'm sure. I have confidence.
Right. Well, are you convinced, Mr. Anurag Naidu? Last word to you.
No, definitely. I just would like a quick practical challenge.
Even before this move, the government has taken action against the people who have put something against them in even the Facebook. There are many instances available. Even before enacting of this law, they have done it. Any of the BJP states have done it. You can see.
But Smita Menon, you would accept that the Chief Minister has actually acted because there was an incident of women being abused online, and they went and thrashed the abusers. After that incident is when Pinarayi Vijayan decided that there must be some provision in law. So being the General Secretary of the Mahila Morcha, in some ways at least I would have expected you to give credit to the government that they have taken this matter seriously, where the women had to thrash the abusers, saying that there is nothing that the law can protect us with. So that you would accept was the immediate provocation for this ordinance. Very quickly.
No. The problem is that I admit that the cyber attacks against the women in Kerala, especially against the women and the girl child, is on rise in Kerala. Yes. But since recently I'm a victim to that. I have faced all the political vendetta by this left. Just before entering this into the politics, even my kids' photograph was misused by them. They were used the cyber team of the left, but I didn't get any justice. I filed the cyber case. I didn't get any justice. The photo with my child was the union minister, but he's still a union care, the central government minister.
Well, our concerns are the same, and of course we are aware of abuse that happens online. But at the same time, a draconian law that could curb the freedom of press, or that could in fact crush dissent, is not acceptable in a democracy. Anurag Naidu, Smita Menon, Sunit Chopra, thanks very much for joining us on Urban Debate this evening. We'll continue to focus on this issue and bring to our viewers the exact updates on what the government is planning to do and whether it is fair on the citizens of Kerala. Thanks for watching.